Welcome to the Just As We Are podcast. I'm Katrina, certified life coach, aspiring author, lover of people, mama in recovery, and student of life. Each week, I will bring you love, inspiration, the real life stuff people are afraid to talk about, and guests who are willing to shine their light for you. I give you self-care practices and mindset tips to help you shatter the negative stories you tell yourself. Now is the time to step into the beautiful, loved, whole woman you already are. Let's walk this journey together. Hello, thank you so much for being here, friends. I am incredibly grateful to be here. Welcome back to the Just As We Are podcast. I'm Katrina, your host, and today I'm just going to jump right into it as something came up for me last night. And, I have not shared a ton of my story yet with my podcast listeners, and those people who are in my life know a little bit about my story, but I wanted to come on and talk to you a little bit about rock bottom. So, rock bottom for each individual looks differently. Rock bottom is going to look different for every single person there is, and it's going to just obtain to different areas of our life. We could hit rock bottom in our relationships. We could hit rock bottom in our worthiness. We can hit rock bottom in an addiction. We can hit rock bottom financially. We can hit rock bottom spiritually. And today I'm just going to share with you a little bit about my rock bottom with my alcoholism. I believe it is so important for us to share our stories, share more of our stories, and really talk to people about these things, because it gives permission for others who may be struggling and going through the same thing, or who maybe know someone who is struggling or going through the same thing. It just gives permission, and it also gives that huge sense of hope that everybody is looking for. We're all looking for some sort of hope in a situation that seems so dire, like it's just absolutely not possible that it could ever change. And so my story is, I knew for a while in the back of my head that I had a problem with alcohol, that I absolutely just, there was something wrong there. And I really thought, just as I had thought most of my life, that there was this thing wrong with me, that I was broken in some way that was not fixable, and that I would always be like this. And what is like this? Like this is, a person who couldn't drink like other people, somebody who always had really low self-esteem, who never felt that she would actually ever fit in anywhere, somebody who just was incapable of living a life of quality, of worthiness, of purpose, of having relationships that were true and real, and having a marriage that was good. I thought drama was a regular thing, and my coping mechanism to all of my problems was to go drink. And let me tell you, I had a really great time drinking at times. It was fun. We had a lot of great times going out and having some drinks. It was never just one drink for me. There was always more. There were lots of times that, I would go out with Josh and be like, okay, I'm just going to have one drink. And okay, well, that one, we're okay. Just one more, just one more. Oh, come on, we're having so much fun. Let's just have one more. Always that negotiating. So for me, there was never one drink, and I was always obsessing over the next drink. My obsession was over the next drink. How can I get the next drink? Where am I going to get the next drink? And, my first drug of choice was not alcohol. It was marijuana. That was my first drug of choice. I, in my mind, was not 21 when I first started getting high. I was 19. I had also done some mushrooms and some ecstasy. And my favorite, though, was marijuana and getting high. And I thought to myself, when we would go to parties and I would drink, I still preferred the marijuana over. And in my mind, too, it was like, I didn't really give myself a ton of permission to drink until I turned 21, because then it was legal. even though I was smoking an illegal drug and doing some other illegal drugs, to me, that's how I rationalize it. That's how, like, in my mind, I kind of set that up. And it was, looking back now, I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense, you know? And it's just where I was at. And it was the group of people that I hung out with too. The boys that I hung out with, because that's who I hung out with, is I hung out with guys. I did not trust women. I didn't have a lot of close women friends, and I was more comfortable hanging out with the boys. And I was also in a relationship at the time that I was highly, highly codependent on that boy. He was my everything, and he was going to make me feel better, along with the alcohol and the drugs. And every time that I drank, I cannot recall a time that I did not black out. So I did not know of a time that I did not drink. As far as I knew, you know, I blacked out every single time. So there was never a time that I don't recall not blacking out, and that's a pretty good indicator that I probably blacked out every time I drank. And so, you know, I drank and had a lot of fun for a long time, and then until it didn't become fun. And I thought it's just what you did after you turned 21, and I thought that this is what you do. You party, you go to parties, you hang out, you drink. That's how I fit in. And when I drank, I felt like I could be more of myself. And there are a lot of times where I turned into the not fun drunk. It would become drama in some way. There would be a fight. There was always a mess in some way. But to me, drinking released and helped me let go of all of those things that I thought that I was not, and I felt more a part of when I drank. It wasn't until I came into Josh's life that it really started to pick up even more. We started our relationship off that way. We started our relationship off with a lot of drinking. Our first date, we got totally plastered. And, you know, it just really slowly but quickly progressed from there. It came to the point where I couldn't not drink. You know, I woke up in the morning thinking about it, and I had to go get it. And there were often times, and this was before I was pregnant, before I had the kids, there were often times that I really just told Josh, you know, or would ask him, I would ask Josh to go and get me more alcohol and be like, okay, we need more alcohol, go out and get it. And I'd send him out at like 10 o'clock at night to go get another bottle of wine, or 11 o'clock at night to go get another bottle of wine. And we had to work the next day. And there are a couple instances in my drinking where I was arrested. One was for punching my mom's boyfriend because he said some mean things about her, and I went to jail for punching him. And whether he was a great guy or not, because he wasn't a good guy, that's besides the point. Alcohol was involved. I also was, I don't know what to even call it. I was pulled over, but not really pulled over, because I was already pulled over on the side of the road coming home from the Chris Daughtry concert at the Puyallup Fair. I was on the side of the road. I was probably 2 miles from home, but I quite couldn't make it. I had to pull over, and I had to pee really freaking bad. And I had come from a bar in downtown Puyallup where I had taken a lot of shots, and they had called the taxi for me, and I snuck out the back door because I was fine. I was going to drive home, and I did. But I was pulled over on the side of the road about 2 miles from my house, and I really had to pee. I could not hold it. I was going to pee my pants, and lo and behold, a state trooper pulls up behind me and catches me just as I'm finishing up and gets out of the car. I have no shoes on, and you can take a guess what happens from there. But I get arrested, and I get put in the back of the cop car, and I get taken out to the Washington State Patrol, and they called Josh to come pick me up. You know, I knew there was a problem. There were signs everywhere there was a problem, but I wasn't quite sure. Like, I thought I could handle it. I thought maybe if I tried different things, and I switched my drinks often, I thought maybe I could, you know, get it all under control. And it just became to the point where I couldn't control it anymore. I drank in the morning. I got up, and that's what I looked forward to. I hid cans everywhere. I hid bottles everywhere, you know, and then my kids came along, and I got pregnant. And here's what happened on the day that I found out I got pregnant. I went to the store, and I bought a pregnancy test, and I bought I don't even know what size it is, but a small bottle of vodka. That's what I drink. I drink Monarch vodka. Ugh. And I think about it, and I gag now, but I went and did that. If I wasn't pregnant, I was going to drink that bottle of vodka. If I was pregnant, I was not going to drink that bottle of vodka, and I found out I was pregnant. And that is insanity, you guys. That's complete, absolute insanity. So for the course of my pregnancy, I drank way less, but I still drank, and it was only red wine, and that's how I excused it, was because it was red wine, and the doctor said it wasn't bad. But I didn't drink that much. Like, I totally did not drink as much at all that I was drinking before I was pregnant. And then I had the twins, and even though I breastfed, it got back to being game on fairly quickly after the twins were born. I was breastfeeding, I was pumping and dumping all the time, but I was producing enough breast milk where I was able to feed them. I fed them the whole first year through breast milk, and I pumped and dumped a lot. And, Josh and I were going to get married at one point, and we had set out all the invitations, and a month before the wedding, him and a couple of friends came to me and were like, okay, we need you to just not drink for 30 days. Something like this. There's a lot I don't remember, you guys. It was a result of my drinking. There's a lot I don't remember, but it was, we need you not to drink for 30 days because there's a problem here, or the wedding's getting called off. And the wedding ended up getting called off after I'd sent the invitations out. And so I had to send out, little notes about, due to whatever unforeseen circumstances, we're not getting married right now. And, that was so hard on me. That was so terrible. And one of the most embarrassing and difficult things I've ever had to do. And it still didn't stop me. It still didn't stop me. And you kind of think about it now and think back, like, at what point is your rock bottom? And it's different for everybody. I didn't lose everything in my life. I very well could have, and I was on the way to losing everything. Some people come in and they have lost everything. Some people have come in because they're forced to. Some people come in, for various different reasons. Rock bottom is different for everybody. And it's kind of to that point where you're so sick and tired of being sick and tired, you have no other choice. And the day that I went to my first women's meeting was by accident. It was a day of Josh and I were arguing, and he was trying to wrestle the vodka bottle out of the front of my pants that I had hidden, that I really thought I was keeping from him sneakily. And I really thought that I was good at, not being drunk in front of him. But he always knew. It was obvious. It's a lie. You can smell vodka. People, it's not, you can smell vodka. You can tell when somebody's drunk. But I had been drinking, and, I drank with my kids in the car. I would drink and drive. I love to drink and drive. There was times where I probably even blacked out while driving, and thank God, God had my back this entire time, you guys. I think back to it, and it makes me sick to my stomach. One, to know that I was drinking and driving with my kids in the car, and two, that I was on the road anyway, where other people were on the road, and I could have hurt them, and three, I could have really seriously hurt myself. That is not okay. I kind of go over it now because I've talked about it so much, and I've healed from that, and I've not in that place anymore, and I'm not that person anymore, but it is a serious matter. I put other people's lives in danger, not just my own and my own kids, including my own kids. And so on this day, I don't know what month it was. I think it was like April probably, or maybe even March. I'm not even sure. But Josh and I were wrestling around. He was trying to get a bottle of vodka out of the front of his pants. And my mother-in-law came over and found us and kind of broke us up a little bit. And she asked me if I wanted to go get a hamburger. And reluctantly, I got in the car. I didn't want to get in the car. Are you kidding me? No, I wanted my vodka, and I wanted Josh to leave me alone. But I felt I was at a place at that time in my life where I didn't know how to stop. I couldn't not stop. I had to drink. I started in the morning. I would get the kids dressed. I would get up, feed the kids, get the kids dressed. I'd be so hungover from the night before. And I might have taken a drink or two that morning to kind of calm my nerves. But then I would put the baby gate up, and I would lay down in their bedroom after getting them all fed in where I thought they were safe, in a safe place where they would play. and I would pass out on the bedroom floor. Insanity, just complete insanity. And, I had no idea that I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do anything differently. And so I got in the car with my mother-in-law, and she ends up taking me to this women's meeting, this Women's Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. We weren't going to get a frickin' hamburger. Are you kidding me? She was taking me to a meeting, and I was mad, and I didn't want to get out of the car, and I was embarrassed. And a loving family member came out and got me, not a family member, a family friend came out and got me to go into that meeting. And I don't remember anything from that time. I just know what's been told to me. I shared in that meeting. I was completely plastered, and I went home, and, I kept going back to that meeting, you guys. I didn't stop drinking, but I kept going back to that meeting, and I immediately got a sponsor appointed to me. She came up and said, I'm going to sponsor you. Fantastic. And I called her, and I talked to her. God was intervening in my life in ways and working in my life in ways I didn't know at that time. And I see it now. Now that I've done all this work, I see where his hand has been in my life in so many different areas, especially during that time. Taking care of me, taking care of my kids, taking care of the other people in my life that I was taking down and destroying. And I still hadn't, I heard something in that meeting because I kept going back. And, I felt like such a complete loser. My life was falling apart around me. I didn't think I would amount to anything. I felt so disgusting inside, so torn apart. And I also often used my whole history of my growing up. If you were me, if you had grown up like I did, you would drink too. Those are the reasons around why I drank. Those were the things I need coping around. But the fact too was I was an alcoholic. And that's what I turned to deal with the things that were going on in my life until it came to a point where I had to have a drink. I would get the shakes if I didn't have that drink. And I didn't realize how terrible my alcoholism was. I would see shadows on the walls, and my hands would shake until I drank, until I could get a drink in me to calm me down. And for me, it took me going into rehab. I don't know how long of time passed between when I went to that women's meeting and I went and had an assessment done down at a treatment center, and I got into rehab. I know it wasn't a very long period of time, but for me, that was enough. Once I got into treatment and I started to learn about the disease of alcoholism, I started to get some sobriety under me and to get some alcohol out of my system. I found hope, and I found a solution there. I could sit here and I could tell you all day long all of the things that I did when I was drinking that would definitely give me enough ticks on the board to say, yep, she's an alcoholic. Yep, she's an alcoholic. But I don't need to go through my drunk-a-log to tell you that I'm an alcoholic. And what I'm here to tell you is, when you get to that place in your life where you've had enough and you're so sick and tired of being sick and tired, and there is a solution presented to you, you have a choice. See, as soon as I got some alcohol out of my body and I got into treatment and I was able to come to a place of understanding what this disease was, I had a choice. I had a choice to choose recovery or continue down the path that I was. And to continue down the path that I was meant losing my husband, losing my kids, losing my home, losing all the materialistic things I owned, losing family, losing myself, and it meant death. And for me, that death, it didn't matter. Death was not necessarily being 6 feet under the ground, although that is absolutely a possibility. Death was being the walking dead. I already felt like death. I felt empty inside. There was complete and utter despair. I felt so just terrible as a person, so completely lost. that I didn't know what to do with myself. I saw very little reason to go on. There was also a good chance I would end up in jail for a very long time, or maybe even an insane asylum. That's where alcohol leads us. Jails, sanitariums, 6 feet under. Eventually, that's where the road leads. So, being everybody's rock bottom looks differently, you get to ask yourself, like, where is my rock bottom? You don't have to lose anything in order to stop doing something. You don't have to lose anything to stop doing something. You don't have to lose your family, lose the money, lose the home, lose the relationships. You don't have to. But for some reason, many of us are wired in a way that we have to get into so much pain before we will change. We have to get into that pain before we will change. Because otherwise, we can float along and just be like, okay, this is okay. This is great. Maybe this isn't so good. It's all right, though. I can still handle this. I can, whatever. I'm keeping it together. And I've been there too. I've had more than one rock bottom in my life and in different areas of my life. I've had a rock bottom in sobriety as well. It doesn't have to get to the point where we lose our lives, or we lose our self-love, or we lose our worth, or we lose our minds. It doesn't have to get to that point. We all have a choice. When a solution is presented in front of us, and nowadays there are solutions that come pouring out from everywhere despite what your issue is. There is help everywhere, no matter what your issue is, no matter what that thing is that you're going through. It doesn't have to be an addiction. It could be a financial thing. It could be a relationship thing. It could be an addiction. It could be, I don't know, it could be, any grief of some sort. It could be so many different things, and there are solutions all around you. It's up to us to choose different. It's up to us to make a choice. Do we want to continue on the path that we are on, or do we want something different? And I wanted something different so badly. And thank God he placed that solution in front of me that day. Thank God my mother-in-law came over and said, do you want to go get a hamburger? Because even though I didn't stop drinking right away, that was the beginning of the walk towards going into treatment, the walk towards the recovery that I've been able to have for the last 9.5 years. It's a beautiful gift. It's a beautiful thing, you guys. But we get to make the choice. We get to figure out what that looks like for us. We have to do the work in order to make the change. I shared that I shared this rock bottom. That's the only rock bottom. So I shared this rock bottom with you guys just to kind of give you a better idea of my story and who I am, and hopefully to get a little bit of hope out there for those of you who are struggling in some way to know that there is a solution. So I went to treatment. I kept my sponsor. I did the work in treatment, and it was not easy, you guys. My stuff came up all over, because how do you do life without alcohol? How do I get up in the morning without alcohol? How do I talk to somebody I'm afraid to talk to without, getting the liquid courage first? How do I go home and face my family after all the stuff that I did? How do I go camping without alcohol? How do I have a good time without alcohol? How do I deal with my sad sorrows of the day without alcohol? I drank because the sun rose and the sun went down. It didn't matter. There's a solution out there. There's hope out there if you're struggling in some way. I wanted to provide that message to you guys because I think it is so relevant these days. Alcoholism and addiction are very relevant these days, and it runs rampant in people's families, and it affects more than the person who is using. It is a family disease, and it just branches out from there. So I hope that provided some value for you guys. I hope it provided some permission to some of you to know that you're not alone. There is a solution, and there's help available for you. And maybe provide some insight for those of you who are experiencing somebody or in relationship with somebody who has an issue. And really just to share more of my story with you guys, because the more stories we share, right, the more human a person is, the more connection we can make with a person. And I do this podcast because I know the more that we talk and we share our stuff, not just our bad stuff, not just this kind of stuff, but our joys and the wins that we're going through. You know, the more connection we make as a society, and that is just so much needed right now, to connect and to have build those relationships with people, and to know that while our experiences are not the same, I've felt that way too. And it gives hope, and it sheds light on a dark place in some people's lives. And that light will spread. It'll spread like wildfire.